build is in my top 10 list for hopefully, being one of those top ones. So let's get right to this. And these are pretty much the only ones I'm going to do. If I happen to decide I want to use another texture, I'll add it down here and I'll tell you what it is. So, but for the most part, I want to use nothing but these 8 that I have laid down here. And the first one I want to use is this small sandstone brick on this wall here. And I put a little marker here so I knew what height I wanted to put it at. And helps if I use the right tool, right? And I'm going to grab just the bottom section. I'm going to move this out and pull it something maybe like that, I guess. And let's go ahead and add us a little line. And the reason why I chose that section is because I knew it was going to end up at the very top of one of my line structures here in the actual pattern. And I mean, I could have gone down to this one if I want to, and I could still do that. And we may end up doing it. I don't know. If you notice here at the very top, it lines up as well with the actual voxels. So that is perfect. And that's why I like the small sandstone bricks versus the bigger ones. The bigger ones don't quite line up with your voxels. And hopefully, long term, they'll kind of do some little editing with that. So these lines that we actually have in the texture do line up. It would be awesome if it did across all of the different textures. But this is kind of what we're kind of aiming at here. And if you notice, I'm going to go ahead and chop this out here because I want this line here to line up with that as well. And we're going to just chop this little section out. I'm going to hit my delete key, pop that out. And you can see I've got all these hard edges. Don't worry about the hard edges. We'll get to those. And I'm going to do this to a few of these bricks. If you notice that, most of these actually do line up with that selection pattern. And that's one of the things I do like about this particular texture. And I'm going to pop out, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's go out with a 2 voxel deep there. And I think we'll come out of that block this way, a voxel, and let's drop that down and add there. So we have like this little variance. We have parts to go in, we got parts to come out, and we can continue this on in various different little areas just to kind of bring that texturing out a little bit more, and just kind of play with it just a little bit there. And turning this wall into something that's a little bit more. And the idea of doing this particular tutorial actually came from me going over and helping someone out. Pretty much the majority of my tutorials kind of end up like that anyway. So, but I go over and help some people, and I see the problems other people are running into, and I figure, what the heck, we'll make a tutorial out of it and we'll run with it. And so I'm going to make a selection here at the top. And I want to do a transition between these large bricks to smaller bricks here on the top. And I think I'm going to push this in. Let's just leave a little edge on that. And this time I'm going to go with these 10 small bricks. And I really hope we do get a red brick at some point in time. I think it'll help, especially when we go to do the human builds and whenever that's kind of happens. But you can see these actually line up fairly neatly with our voxels. They're a voxel high. Even though that left to right, it doesn't always line up with the voxels. But if you look at these patterns, when you're mousing over with your selection tool here, you can see certain ones of them line up perfectly with that with the selection tool, like this one right here. That's perfect. We'll select that one and let's hit the delete key. Let's take that brick out and let's see if we can find some more. That one's a little off, but these 2 down here seem to be right on it. But I'm going to take out a few of these bricks to see what we can kind of come up with breaking up that pattern just a hair. I think that'll do right there. So we get this little bit of a breakup. We don't want to take too much out, because if you take too much out, it doesn't look exactly realistic, and unless you're actually forming a section of the wall that's saying breaking apart like this, you know, actually coming out, and so you'd have like layers coming up like this. But this is going to kick us off. I think it's going to do pretty good, and I think I'm going to take one extra line out of that top section of this one. There we go. Something about like that. And now that we're at this point, now it's time to actually get into it, do a little bit of smoothing work, make it a little bit more real looking, and the smoothing is really going to make all this not look so, you know, uniform. And for this, I'm going to grab sections such as this, and I'm going to do nothing but a standard smooth here. This bottom, I'm going to do a control smooth. So I'm pressing control, taking my smooth tool and clicking this once. And on this side, I think I'm going to do a control smooth as well. Now, here at the top, you'll notice that we're getting some of this this artifacting, and this is the artifacting that comes along with the textures versus the way that the voxels are created. And the engine has a little bit of a problem of trying to discern like exactly how is that texture supposed to form on that face. So, but we'll address this in a minute, and I'll show you some different ways that over the last like 2 days I figured out how to deal with some of that that hard edging type shaping with the patterns, and we'll kind of address that in a moment. But for now, let's go ahead and finish up our little smoothing job here. I'm going to select this whole thing, grab that little smooth tool. I'm going to do a control smooth here, and let's do a standard smooth here. And for this right here, we're going to select the whole entire outside region of it. Oops, go over smooth. So we get this little variance in the wall. You know, you see you got like divots and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to do a control smooth along this outside edge all the way down.
Hey, Tenma.
How's it going?
Nothing much, sir. I'm doing something pretty ambitious.
Okay.
And I need some circles for it, or cylinders, or even just a round circle about 20. And I've been trying to recreate one from your tutorial a while back, and I haven't been able to do that.
All right. Get up with me after or near the end of the show, or after I finish this tutorial I'm doing right now.
Oh, oops.
Yeah. Either that or hit up Coraine. She's still on. I think she has some. She's got some circle stacks over there on her claim.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Okay. So now that we have that part of the wall kind of like, you know, ironed out halfway the way we need it, we're going to kind of move on to the next little phase, which is going to be working on these little bricks. This actually, I'm going to wait to do that. I'm going to go ahead and start doing some of the blending, and then we're going to come back to those bricks, and hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense, the reason why I'm doing that. Okay, so we've got the bottom kind of set up. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about this ground down here. We're going to work with that, and that's going to be a part of a little bit of a terraforming type situation down here at the bottom to blend this to the ground so that it looks like it's supposed to be there. And I'll show you a way to handle that. It's kind of harder to do with a larger claim, but for a smaller claim you can do this fairly easy, and it does a really miraculous job for the bottom part. I had to do this with the Charon Colossus, and I'll go over that in a moment. But let's go ahead and start with our actual blending here just above these bricks. And for this, I'm going to go with this grass texture. This is just the standard grass texture. It's just called grass, and we're going to start just going along this bottom section right up in here. And you can see it doesn't blend. You know, this doesn't blend very well, but we're going to make some patterns here on the walls, kind of along the edges, down in the crevices, and just go along the very bottom edge. This will give us a nice tight change between these down here and what we're going to do above. I'm getting hoarse today. I was talking all day yesterday, I think it was, and that was why. So next, I'm going to come in here with this other grass pattern, which is the tropical highland grass. Now, we're going to basically go around this particular texture all the way around, and it's going to give us like this little fading type of a look. And if you notice, I'm getting a little bit of that hard edging, but we'll address that in a moment. I'm going to go pretty much around this and do the little bit of a blending work. And the reason why I'm using this, I'm not using both of the same, is because I want this down here to stay sharp, and this up here I want to stay to where we can actually blend it. If I took that grass and put it over here, we'd start getting some blending into our bricks, and I want to be able to control that. So we're going to come just right along the edges here, and I like this highland grass because it has a very unique texture to it. It actually gives this really defined look to the grass, where the standard grass has that dull appearance, and it actually comes out really nice. All right, and we'll just kind of go along this a little bit more, I think, to kind of blend out some of those hard edges we're getting in our texture. And you'll get these hard edges every once in a while, and there's different ways of kind of dealing with it. You can take your smooth tool, and sometimes this will clean it out, and then there's sometimes you'll take your line tool and drag it across, and you can see how if one tool doesn't work, try the other one. And it may take a little bit of playing to get it to actually do what you're wanting it to do, but a lot of times you can work out a lot of that those sharp edges out of your blend work. And now let's go back in and try painting it again and see if it kind of clears it up. Still getting a little bit of that hard edge, and it's kind of fighting with me a bit, but this is kind of good because you actually see, you know, how can I deal with that? How can I fix it? All right, so we're still having that little bit of a problem there. Let's try a different texture. Let's go with the sand gravel or desert highland gravel, and we want to see if this will fix some of that. Sometimes putting in another texture will solve that problem, give us a different blending type of an effect. And there's always an originator, a voxel, that causes that shaping to kind of form on your walls. And if you can find that voxel, all the better. I'm trying to find it. I think I found one. Still kind of fighting there. Let's try line tooling it out. There we go. It's sort of kind of coming out of there. It's definitely fighting with me. And why it does this, I have no clue. You figure a blending texture should do it every single time, do the same type of effect every time, but it does this streaking that really does start to annoy. And hopefully I can knock this thing in the bud though. Let me go to a bigger brush and see if there's voxels on the back side that's causing it. And we'll just kind of blend out some of the rest of it. It seems like to just stick in that one location there, so we're going to just going to sit here and play with it until I get it. So bear with me a moment. It's not transitioning very well, I don't think. Alright, let's go with let's go with some of this. Trying to retain that sharp line down there, and it's really starting to fight with me a bit. I'm switching between textures here, holding my Alt and selecting the one that I want to use off of the wall, and just holding Alt and then clicking on that material to switch between the different materials. It's a quick way to just jump around between your materials instead of having to sit there and keep looking it up in the materials window over here. And it is definitely fighting with me. I'm starting to think that the plaster is what's fighting with me instead of the rest of the textures that I'm laying down, I think. I'm getting close. I think I've knocked out most of them except for this one right here. See if I can blend that in. Like I said, it's a little fighting game, but you can definitely do some pretty interesting stuff the more you play with it. The more you play with it. Yeah, I'm getting that bleed over from our bricks here, and I didn't want that. Let me back out. Control Z to back out of it. I think what I'm going to do here at the bottom, I'm going to have to switch over to a different texture again. Let's go with this rock, which is the desert ocean rock, and see if I can work this out just a little bit more. It's not doing it either. Great. All right, let's go with cavern wall. This is desert cavern wall. Let's see if this will solve our problem. I'm still getting that really nasty texturing going on here. I'm using the smooth tool on the wall. It's doing some nasty stuff going on there, and I really didn't want that to happen. Let's see if I can straighten up my wall here. Trial and error. Hopefully not too much error. We get too much error, then it kind of throws away the whole entire idea of doing the tutorial. So hopefully I can do this in kind of one swing, and we'll get us a really good tutorial to put up somewhere. How's it going, 1,000 stars? There we go. That voxeling right there is really bugging me. We are doing some blending on a wall section and trying to give it a little bit more oomph, some more texture design, something to bring your walls to life a little bit more. And that's pretty much the goal for this. And at the same time, I'm having to fight with the textures, which is not very fun. I think some of this we might have to live with, even though I really don't want to. You can see how this section of the wall is actually coming to life just a little bit more than what you would normally have, which was kind of the goal in the first place. And but I did want to stick with that standard grass down here because I don't want this to bleed. I don't want this texture to bleed into the wall texture that's up here. I wanted to keep it kind of a separate. And that is the one thing that I'm kind of running into here. And let's go back to our... And I'm trying to stick with 8 textures, by the way, too, so without having to pull out something different. Okay, so we did a little bit of blending between different grass textures, rock textures, gravel textures, and trying to bring this kind of to a front. And let's see if I can fix this right here right quick. Make this solid, then delete it. But this right here being like the base of a wall or something like that, and you know, it has, you can see where like how the wall is actually structured underneath, whether it be bricks or, you know, like this cobblestone type of effect here at the bottom. And I also want to take, there's actually 2 more textures I'd like to bring out, now that I think about it. This first texture, I've got to find it because I'm trying to remember which one it was. There's the gravel. I think I already had that one. Alpine gravel was one. And let's go back here. And I think it was just a very dark tundra dirt. So let's bring those out. And I think I'm going to use this tundra dirt next. And I want to run this down here at the bottom. Kind of sucks that it's sitting there doing that artifacting. Still not too bad there. I guess we might have to work with it in a different way and maybe try to cover it up with other bricks. Let's try that. Let's see if that works. Let's back out. Oh, I just saw something that might be useful. Let's paint the actual walls with some bricks. It's not too bad. Might be able to blend in a few rock structure bricks in here. It's another way of dealing with it, I guess. Not exactly what I wanted, but it'll work. Paint it up, paint it up. It's definitely fighting with me here, and oh, there we go. Finally. Now let's go with our other gravel here. Let's go ahead and start treating the ground. Go into our sand, I think. Lowland rippled sand, maybe? There we go. And really not sure why it's fighting with me today. It when I was doing this before the show to try to get this thing ready, I didn't have this problem. I really didn't have this problem. But you can kind of see some of the stuff that you'll end up running into, I guess, in the process of trying to do this type of work. The variances that you'll end up getting. And I'm going to put this gravel on the high points, or what's going to be on the top of whatever face. On the sandstone. Let's go back to Wait a minute, there was another texture I'm missing. Hold on. Gotta see if I can find it. It's not the Highland gravel. I'm trying to remember what the name of it was now. It wasn't in sand, I don't think. It was called cracked earth or something like cracked. Oh, there it is. Right there. Desert lowland cracked earth. Started out with 8. Now we're actually adding quite a bit here, I guess. Cracked earth. There we go. I think I'm going to repaint these bricks to the cracked earth instead. Take out some of this on the side. And I think I'm making it worse. I don't know. I do believe I am. It's not too bad. I can definitely live with that. Let's go back to our... There we go. Now we're freaking cooking with lard. Alright. Taking that crack texture there and trying to give that wall a little bit more texture, visually at least. Take a little bit of blending to get it in there. I'm getting grass at the top. I don't want that. Just don't go all the way up with it. Go back to this gravel. Just do it on the top edge. These areas in here a little bit darker and recessed. I just wish the materials were blending like they were supposed to, and it's really fighting with me right now. I'm just going to use that gravel on this, see if it fixes it. Looks like it did for the most part. That's not too bad right there. But playing around with your textures, setting up the exact ones that you want to use or whatever. You've got certain textures that blends really good with other textures, and of course you got other textures that don't want to blend with others. And the biggest issues that we've had so far was it creating that artifacting where it looks, and instead of being square, it does this cockeyed poop stuff right here. And getting rid of that is the hardest single thing that you're going to end up doing. But the more you play with it, eventually you'll figure out a way to take care of it. We did notice that when you're working with like an angle, instead of straight vertically, if you're working with an angle, using your smooth tool on it actually will kind of clean up some of that artifact look on it. And just by taking your smooth tool, sometimes it will clean up some of that craziness. I hit something there and it cleaned it up. You see how it's changing the actual texture pattern when I'm going over it with the smooth tool. There's something in there that causes that, and don't exactly know what causes that, but it does a lot of times fix a lot of the that shifting overlook that you end up dealing with. But you can come up with some really neat textures, mixture of textures that can really bring a building or a wall that is just bland and it has no texture at all or whatever. It's just a single color. You go in there and find other similar colors and start working with it. And a lot of times you can come up